In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue-black ink from Platinum Blue Black. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the Blue Black playlist, so if you want to see more of them, you can find that there. I'm Adam, I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. The stub shades incredibly well, as does the extra fine and the medium. Now they all give very nice shading. The extra fine's quite a bit lighter than the stub. The medium's a little darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub. Very blue leaning, blue-black, so if you're into that, this is going to be good for you. The extra fine is 14 seconds to dry, the medium is 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show good color variation, because if you can't see it in the writing, you're an insane person, perhaps. The smear test says you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pelikan M205 with a double broad nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We see some shading going on in the stub. We see minor spots of shading happening with the extra fine and some shading happening in the stub, which I don't see this much shading all the time on Tomoe River. The extra fine is a lot lighter than the stub, where the medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine. Extra fine took 17 seconds to dry and the medium took 25. Scrubby for both show us some color variation, and we're definitely getting it in the writing, and the smear test you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this looks very much like a true blue pushing its way up. We see across the top a common element that is blackish in tone that has been frequently found in the blue-black inks that I've tested, and it usually does gather at the top. Now the interesting thing is just above that is a very pale cream color, is how I would really describe it. It's not a mark on the paper that's from where the water went. It's definitely a something that has moved from this ink. Now the one on the right that's let dry for 10 minutes, a lot of that blue has gathered on the bottom. We see none of that blackish element at the top, so it all stayed down below. And we still see that kind of cream color at the top, which I suspect is what they're hoping would give it the shading in this ink. I'm not really expecting much resistance here though. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We do get spots of lighter shading in the stub. The extra fine has spots of darker shading. The medium has both darker and lighter, so it shades very well with all of them. Extra fine's a whole lot lighter than the stub, where the medium is just a bit lighter, just a bit darker than the extra fine. Nowhere near as dark as the stub. Extra fine took 14 seconds to dry, while the medium took 20. Scrubby for both give us good color variation. We definitely get it. And the smear test, you can recover if you smear while you're writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it really made kind of a muddy highlighter tone. It didn't become yellow highlighter, it became kind of grayish. Now, while all the writing is readable, that sort of aspect of what happened made me not want to use this in a note-taking situation, but it is up to you. Water really did surprise me in how little water moved. It only moved a little bit. I expected no resistance from this ink, and yet it's proving me wrong. Pen Flush is moving the blue, but discoloring the paper some, which is weird. It's doing it like the bleach did, but that is the pen flush. The 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it and discoloring the paper a bit yellow, kind of reminding us of that creamish tone that we saw in the chromatography. Now for the good news. It only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. Now I look at this not to see performance differences, but just to be able to look at tone changes when you work in that kind of professional environment. The great news with this ink is it is very opaque. It is not changing color or tone as a result of this yellow backdrop. It is keeping very much a blue tone. You only see a slight difference from one to the other, but this is very much blue on the blue-black side of things. So you don't have to worry about that in a professional environment if you write on yellow paper. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Platinum's blue-black has a viscosity of 1.46, making this a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and all that's done, then down in the description are links to that video. Not those videos. It's only one of them. It's down there. Now let's take a look at White Lines paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting, which is amazing for this paper that is really not fountain pen friendly. We have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do have shade all the way through. Bear in mind this is not white, it's actually a gray tone. We do get some shading in the stub. We get shading in the extra fine and in the medium. I think it stands out the best in the medium. The extra fine is a lot lighter than the stub. The medium's darker than the extra fine, nowhere near as dark as the stub. Extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, while the medium took 8. The scrubby for both. Color variation, we definitely get it in the writing. So true here. The smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Platinum's blue-black has an average dry time of 18 seconds, so it's normal. The last writing sample is done on P. Berger paper. Now I want to take a moment and bask in this glory. This is a very inexpensively made, or cheaply made, poorly made, however you would want to put it, student grade paper, and other than the scrubby, we have no bleeding and no ghosting. Bravo! We have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do see shading in the stub, the extra fine, and the medium. All of them look really good, and congratulations to P. Berger paper because I think you found the perfect ink for you. The extra fine's a lot lighter than the stub, where the medium's only a little lighter than the stub. Extra fine took 4 seconds to dry, medium took 6. Perfect ink for this paper for students. I can't stress that enough. Scrubby for both show us color variation. We do get it in the writing, yes. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Platinum's blue-black, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a green ink from KWZ. Kind of reminds me of sweaters my aunt would give me when I was a child. And these horrific blue-green sweaters. But hey, I get to relive some of that here. I went with KWZ's Iron Gall number 4. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description, you'll find links to those playlists. So what do I think of Platinum's blue-black? This is a dull, dusty blue. It does shade, but only as a blue. Now, I'll pass on this, but that's because I have blue blacks I prefer. With that, I think this is a tremendously great performing ink on the inexpensive papers. It's just too blue leaning for me. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? If, like me, you would like this to be a darker blue as a blue-black, then you're going to need to use a very wet, fine, or extra fine pen. But if you like that dusty tone, then a medium or wet pen or dry pen of any nib will really give you what you want. I don't think, while I said to get it darker, you need that wet, fine, or extra fine, I think you are still going to get a dusty tone you would appreciate. It's just a matter of what you'd prefer. So the lighter blue, go with a medium flow pen of any nib, where for that darker tone, really get a very wet, fine, or extra fine. I think it took me forever to get around to that one. It was not a good run right there. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Ackerman's number 25.